the Hydrotreater. 4 precision loitering munitions just violently rupture the chemical spine of the military. Stay with me, because what this thermal breach exposes and what it means for mechanized warfare requires telling. This event is not a standard geopolitical energy crisis. It is not a crude oil shortage or a simple pipeline failure. This is the engineered chemical starvation of frontline military logistics. 150,000 barrels of ultra-low sulfur diesel, gone in a single strike, instantly wiping out the daily lifeblood of heavy armor, which leaves a forward-deployed division exactly 14 days from actual operational zero. For 80 years, global defense doctrine rests heavily on a fundamental, load-bearing assumption regarding supply. The architectural belief is that hoarding hundreds of millions of barrels of crude oil equates to absolute energy security. But that specific assumption is a catastrophic, structural lie. Modern mechanized warfare, the 60-ton main battle tanks and the mobile artillery platforms, does not run on raw crude oil. Raw crude oil is mathematically useless to a high-performance military diesel engine operating in the field. If a tank burns unrefined crude, the resulting sulfuric acid causes catastrophic engine failure within days. The heavy fuel must first be physically separated in a massive, highly vulnerable distillation column. And critically, the destructive sulfur must be stripped out under immense industrial pressure. Let's talk about the radar blind spot that allowed this to happen. Legacy air defense systems, like Patriot and S-400 equivalents, operate with a massive mathematical vulnerability. They use Doppler notch filters, radar processing algorithms designed to ignore ground clutter and track fast-moving ballistic threats, which means they structurally ignore anything flying low and slow. 4 low RCS loitering munitions exploit this exact algorithmic flaw to bypass the shield. They plot low-altitude waypoints through geographic river valleys to remain completely unseen, flying entirely underneath the geometric horizon line of a $100 million interceptor net. They trade $100,000 in drone hardware to paralyze a multi-billion-dollar chemical process. Let's talk about the physical hydrodesulfurization unit that was struck. The node that modern military defense architecture completely ignores during strategic planning. The node that sits entirely unbunkered on the exposed civilian surface. The node whose destruction instantly paralyzes a forward-deployed mechanized army. You cannot patch a breached catalytic reactor vessel with steel plates and welding torches. These massive vessels are forged from specialized chromium-molybdenum steel alloys, built to withstand internal pressures of 2,000 psi at temperatures exceeding 400 degrees Celsius. The global manufacturing backlog for replacing these specific high-pressure vessels is mathematically fixed. 18 to 24 months of waiting. 18 months to replace the pressurized steel. 14 days until the tanks physically stop moving. The underlying math simply does not work. Let's talk about the terrifying realities of the depletion curve. A single armored division consumes over 500,000 gallons of heavy diesel every single day of active maneuver warfare. Right now, regional strategic depots hold a finite, static supply of refined middle distillates. Quartermasters are abruptly forced to switch their accounting from a flow-through consumption model to a terrifying drawdown model. Every hour of combat burns closer to the absolute red line. 2 to 5 waves from actual operational zero. At current burn rates, this static stockpile hits zero in exactly 14 days. 14 days before a 70-ton main battle tank becomes a stationary steel bunker. Let's talk about the interconnected nature of the cascade map. The integration that makes the complex efficient in normal operations is the exact same integration that makes this damage catastrophic. Upstream, crude oil continues to flow endlessly from the pipeline network into the crippled refinery. But without the distillation and hydrotreating nodes, it violently hits a dead end. Storage tanks for raw crude reach their absolute maximum fill capacity within 72 hours, which forces the immediate cascading shutdown of distant extraction wells. The crude oil drops by 2% on the spot market because it is trapped upstream with nowhere to go, while regional refined diesel surges 35% in 48 hours. The algorithms are furiously pricing in the immediate physical scarcity. Let's talk about the inevitable brutality of the triage algorithm. As the 14-day supply curve becomes mathematically undeniable, Central Command must enact draconian fuel rationing. Auxiliary diesel generators powering forward radar arrays are throttled down or completely cycled. Every single prioritization decision produces a massive defensive coverage gap. To extend the military's 14-day window, the state requisitions commercial diesel. They pull it directly from the civilian, agricultural, and trucking sectors. The internal supply chain completely freezes in response. Just-in-time food delivery networks fail instantly. Civilian market inflation spikes asynchronously across the entire region, not because there is a physical lack of food, because the chemical energy required to physically transport the food no longer exists. The structural revelation exposed by this precision strike is absolute. For nearly a century, global military strategy focuses entirely on defending the source or the delivery pipelines. The entire defense architecture completely ignores the transformation node, the unbunkered, highly volatile chemical target sitting in plain sight. Here is what this physical rupture means from this morning forward. It means the threshold of modern warfare permanently shifts. It means an adversary does not need to defeat a standing army. It means they simply break the highly specialized steel vessels that strip the sulfur from the fuel. The state media releases sterile, official statements claiming a minor industrial fire was rapidly extinguished, while commercial satellites show a massive, uncontrolled heat bloom where the critical processing node used to be. No military vocabulary can contain the devastating reality of an empty fuel gauge. You cannot negotiate with a stalled diesel engine. You cannot bluff a static stockpile. The unforgiving logistical countdown is already running for the front lines. The hydrotreater is burning.